if you're still. Have you ever loved someone so deeply, even after they shattered your heart? Holding on to the pain, if you can't stop thinking about someone who hurt you, this story is for you. Before we begin, take a deep breath. And if this resonates even a little, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because what you're about to hear could finally set your heart free. This isn't just a story. This is Tibetan wisdom passed through centuries and shared by the Dalai Lama himself. It will challenge everything you believe about love, pain, and healing. Let's begin. He sat alone, in silence, with eyes full of tears and a heart that no longer trusted itself. She was gone. But worse than that, she had taken the best part of him with her. She didn't just leave. She left him questioning if love was even real. Friends told him to move on. Family said to forget her. But how do you forget someone who lives in your soul? He didn't want revenge. He didn't want closure. He just wanted peace. One morning, after another sleepless night, he did something unexpected. He packed a small bag, left a note on his desk, and took the first flight to Nepal. He had read once that in the high mountains of Tibet, monks had answers that the world had forgotten. Not in textbooks, not in podcasts, but in silence and stillness. And so, with only a name and a direction, he began to climb. The air grew thin, but his hope grew stronger. He reached the monastery at dawn, surrounded by clouds and chants. Time felt slower here, if even pain had to wait. An old monk greeted him without words, just a bow and a look, as if he already knew why the young man had come. They sat across each other, no phones, no distractions, just the weight of a broken heart and the presence of a man who had mastered his own. Finally, the monk spoke. "Why have you come so far, carrying so much pain?" The young man looked down, then whispered, "Because I still love the one who hurt me." The monk didn't flinch. He simply nodded, as if that was the answer he had been waiting for. Then, the monk said, "You are ready to begin." The monk's words echoed in the young man's mind. "You are ready to begin." Ready to begin what? He thought. He had come here hoping for answers, but the monk wasn't giving him anything concrete. With a deep breath, the monk gestured toward a path behind the monastery. The path led into the forest where trees rose like ancient sentinels, their branches swaying gently in the wind. "Follow the path," the monk said, "and when you are ready, you will find what you seek." The young man stood, confused yet curious, and slowly began walking. The sound of his footsteps was all he could hear. As he walked deeper into the woods, the weight on his chest seemed to lighten, just a little. The journey wasn't just physical, it was mental, emotional, and spiritual. Every step felt like he was shedding something heavy, though he couldn't yet explain what. After hours of walking, he finally arrived at a small clearing. In the middle stood a single massive boulder, weathered by time and nature. There was no one else around. He sat down on the boulder, letting the silence consume him. And as he sat, he could feel his heart racing again. The pain, the sadness, the lingering love for the one who had hurt him, all of it came flooding back. "Why?" he whispered. "Why can't I just let go?" Suddenly, a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was the monk, standing in the clearing with him. "Because you are still attached," the monk said softly. "Attached?" The young man frowned. "But I love her. How can I stop loving someone I loved so deeply?" The monk smiled gently, as if he understood. "Love is not a possession," he said. "When you hold on too tightly to something or someone, you lose yourself. True love is not ownership, it's freedom. The young man's eyes widened. "What do you mean by freedom?" The monk continued, "You are attached to the memory of who she was. You are attached to what you think love should look like. But love is not about control. It's about giving without expecting anything in return." The young man sat silently, trying to absorb the monk's words. He had always believed love was about closeness, about being needed, about being together forever. He had never thought of love as freedom. "You must let go of the attachment," the monk said. "Only then will you find peace." The journey was just beginning. The young man didn't yet know how to let go of someone he still deeply loved. He felt lost, but at the same time, something within him began to question everything he had believed up until now. "Let go," he whispered to himself. "How do I let go of someone who is still in my heart?" The monk saw the confusion in his eyes and continued, "You must understand that love does not come with chains, it comes with wings. You must give love freedom just as you must give yourself freedom." The young man couldn't comprehend it all yet, but he knew something deep inside was shifting. He had come for answers. And maybe, just maybe, the answer was not to hold on, but to release. "How do I begin?" the young man asked. The monk smiled. "Begin by looking inside yourself. Begin by realizing that the love you seek outside is already inside of you. You do not need someone else to complete you. You are already whole." Those words hit him like a wave. It was as if the universe had just shattered a belief that had been so deeply rooted in him. For the first time, he realized he wasn't looking for someone to fix him. He needed to fix himself. He stood up from the boulder, determination setting into his bones. "I can do this," he thought. "I can let go." The monk watched him, his eyes wise and kind. The hardest part is realizing that what you thought you wanted is not what you truly need. It's not about finding love from others, but learning to love yourself. The young man nodded, a sense of clarity starting to take root. As he turned to leave the clearing, he felt lighter. He didn't know how long it would take or how this journey would unfold, but for the first time he was ready, and he would do whatever it took to free himself from the chains of love that no longer served him. The young man woke early the next day, the sun barely rising over the distant mountains. The clarity he had gained the day before lingered in his mind, like a soft echo that refused to fade. For the first time in years, he felt something new: hope. He began his morning with a simple meditation, as the monk had suggested. Sitting on the ground, legs crossed, he focused on his breath, slowly inhaling and exhaling, grounding himself in the present moment. As he sat in silence, he realized how often his thoughts had been consumed with her. The pain of their separation, the love that still burned in his heart, and the haunting memories that kept him trapped. But today was different. Today, he was going to free himself from the grip of his past. The monk had spoken of freedom, of loving without attachment, of giving love without expecting anything in return. And while he had understood the words, now he was beginning to feel them. The concept was no longer a distant idea. It was becoming real. He stood up, ready to continue his journey. The forest seemed to welcome him, the air crisp and fresh. With each step, the weight on his shoulders lightened, though there was still a subtle heaviness in his chest. "Let it go," he whispered to himself. "Let it go." He found the path that led up to a cliffside, where he could see the vast valley stretching out below. The view was breathtaking, the endless expanse of nature, the beauty of the mountains, the quiet solitude. As he stood there, looking out over the world, a thought struck him. What if he had been holding on to the wrong thing all along? What if, by holding on so tightly to his past, he had been preventing himself from experiencing true freedom? The young man closed his eyes and breathed deeply. In that moment, he realized something profound. Love wasn't something to hold on to, it was something to release, something to share freely without expecting anything in return. The sound of footsteps behind him broke his contemplation. He turned to see the monk standing a few feet away, a knowing look in his eyes. "You are beginning to understand," the monk said, his voice calm but filled with wisdom. "The process of transformation has already begun within you." The young man nodded, feeling a mixture of gratitude and uncertainty. "But how do I move on? How do I truly let go?" The monk smiled softly. "By forgiving yourself, by understanding that the past does not define you. You are not the mistakes you've made, nor are you the pain you've endured. You are a being capable of great love, and that love must start with yourself." The young man felt a surge of emotion. Forgiveness. It was a concept he had never fully grasped. He had always blamed himself for the end of his relationship, feeling as though he wasn't enough, as if his love had been flawed. But the monk's words began to shift his perspective. Perhaps forgiveness wasn't about excusing what happened. It was about releasing the pain that had held him captive for so long. The journey wasn't just about understanding others. It was about understanding himself. He had to forgive himself for allowing the pain to control him. He had to forgive himself for holding on to a love that no longer served him. As the realization settled within him, he felt lighter. The burden of guilt and regret slowly began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of clarity and inner peace. "You must also forgive her," the monk said quietly, as if reading his mind. "Forgive her." The young man was surprised. "But she hurt me. How can I forgive her?" The monk nodded. "Forgiveness is not for them. It is for you. It is a way to free yourself from the past, to stop allowing the hurt to control your future. Holding on to anger only keeps you trapped in a cycle of pain." The young man stared at the monk, contemplating his words. Slowly, he realized that the forgiveness wasn't for the other person. It was for him, for his peace of mind, for his healing. "I see," he whispered. The monk continued, "And now, you must learn to love yourself in the same way you loved her. Not with expectation, but with acceptance. You must release the past and open yourself to the possibility of love again. But this time, it will be different. It will be a love rooted in freedom, not in attachment." The young man stood in silence, absorbing the weight of the monk's wisdom. For the first time, he felt a sense of release. He didn't have all the answers yet, but he was starting to understand the path ahead. He had come to the monastery seeking closure, but what he found was much more valuable: self-awareness, growth, and the beginning of inner transformation. He thanked the monk for his guidance and began walking back toward the monastery. The journey was far from over, but with each step, he felt stronger, more empowered, and ready to let go of the past. As he reached the gates of the monastery, he stopped and turned to look at the vast mountains one last time. "I am ready," he whispered with a new sense of conviction. As the young man left the monastery grounds, the air felt different, almost alive. There was a renewed sense of purpose in each step he took. The path ahead no longer seemed uncertain, but rather filled with infinite possibilities. For the first time, he didn't feel the weight of the past pulling him back. Instead, he felt lighter, as though a burden had been lifted from his soul. The quiet whispers of the wind seemed to affirm that something had shifted within him. The journey was not about reaching a destination, but about becoming the person he was meant to be. He had begun to awaken to a new version of himself, one that was free from the chains of resentment and pain. As he walked, he reflected on everything the monk had shared with him. Forgiveness wasn't just about letting go of the past. It was about embracing the present moment and creating space for new experiences to unfold. The teachings of the Dalai Lama echoed in his mind, and he realized that true freedom wasn't just emotional, it was spiritual. It was about learning to let go of the attachments that kept him stuck and allowing himself to embrace the flow of life. He reached a quiet clearing, a small pond reflecting the blue sky above. He sat down by the water's edge, his thoughts calm, his heart at peace. The silence felt natural, not empty. It was as though he was connected to everything around him in a way he had never experienced before. In this peaceful moment, the young man closed his eyes and remembered the love he had for her. But it wasn't the same love that had hurt him so deeply. This was a love that had evolved, one that came from a place of understanding and compassion. Love, he realized, wasn't about possession or expectation. It was about the freedom to give, to share, and to honor another person's journey as much as his own. The monk had taught him that love is an energy that flows, and when we try to hold it too tightly, it suffocates. It was a revelation. He had spent so much of his life trying to hold on to a love that was no longer meant for him. In doing so, he had closed himself off from the love that was waiting to come into his life. As the young man sat by the pond, the sun dipped lower in the sky. The world around him seemed to be whispering the truth he had been searching for. The truth wasn't about fixing the past. It was about embracing the present and trusting that everything, even the pain, had a purpose. He stood up, feeling a sense of inner peace that he had never known before. The mountain had taught him that true strength doesn't come from the past, but from the willingness to let go of what no longer serves us. The young man smiled to himself, his heart open and ready for whatever came next. The journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, he felt confident in the path he was walking. He took one final look at the pond, then turned away, ready to embrace the future with a new understanding of love, freedom, and forgiveness. You see, the pain you've been holding onto doesn't define you. It's a chapter in your story, not the entire narrative. The Tibetan wisdom shared by the Dalai Lama teaches us that true healing is not just about moving on, it's about transforming the way we perceive the past. You must understand that every experience, even the painful ones, are part of your journey toward greater wisdom. But how do you break free from the grip of this lingering love? The answer lies in self-compassion. You need to offer yourself the same love and understanding that you would offer a close friend in pain. It's about being kind to yourself, recognizing your worth, and releasing the guilt or shame that may have held you back from healing. The Dalai Lama once said, "When we focus on others' happiness, our own happiness grows." This profound truth applies not only to how you treat others, but also to how you treat yourself. By letting go of the need to fix or change others, you unlock your own peace. When you stop looking for approval or closure from the one who hurt you, you give yourself permission to move forward. You are not weak for loving someone who hurt you. You are human. But the real strength lies in your ability to heal, to forgive, and to rediscover love, not just for others, but for yourself first. Now let's bring it all together. The road to emotional freedom isn't linear. It's a series of ups and downs, but it's worth every step. With the Dalai Lama's wisdom in mind, take this moment to reflect on how you can begin healing today. Start small, start with kindness, with patience. And most importantly, start with the decision to put yourself first. The journey of healing and true love begins within. You are capable of incredible transformation. The moment you stop chasing love outside of yourself, you will realize that it was always inside of you, waiting to be rediscovered. As you move forward, remember, pain doesn't last forever. What remains is the love you've learned to cultivate for yourself, the peace that follows, and the new chapter you're about to write. If this message resonated with you, take the first step right now. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the wisdom that will guide you through your own transformation. And remember, share this with someone who needs to hear it, because when we heal together, we rise together.